Welcome to Building While Flying, a Sasha Group podcast where we interview business leaders about how they tackle challenges, stay resilient, and navigate ever-changing skies.
Hey folks, Joe Quattrone here, back for another episode of Building While Flying Mailbag Edition. And I've got a lot of great questions that have come in from all over the social media landscape, so let's get right into it. Let's go. And we've got Neha from Switch Grocery again, who asks, best way to approach a competitor for a merger or a buyout or working directly? Well, Neha, I will say this, and I've had hundreds of people come through the 4Ds that are small business owners, and almost all of them, when confronted by various different questions from Gary, they all have at least thought about a buyout number, right? Like how much would they sell their company for? And it's something that's constantly floating around in their head. So unless you're part of the 10% of people that have never thought about how much they would sell their company for, chances are they'd be more receptive to your outreach than you think they are. I would still probably make it a very personalized thing though. So the first thing I would be doing is looking for common connections, whether that be on LinkedIn or just shooting a couple texts around to some of your friends to see if anybody has contacts at said company. That's the first thing I would do, is just try to find out who is common connection that might be able to send an email, send a text, or send a LinkedIn direct message. And once you find that person, then go to town on figuring out what is the best way to actually make an introduction. I wouldn't necessarily favor one platform or one angle in versus the other. I would really trust the advice of the person that knows both parties, right? They're going to know how to best reach out to that person. Next we have from @FattySundays. How do you set up a marketing calendar and plan with very limited resources and bandwidth? And similar to last episode, I am going to refer you all to Stork. So we're going to unlock a couple of episodes that we think might be relevant to answering this question. Totally free, of course. So to those of you that don't subscribe, why don't you consider doing so? Now we have a fantastic question from @AI.BillMarie, who asks, how can a social enterprise or nonprofit utilize social media to attract donors or supporters? And I've got a very easy answer. I don't know if this is the only answer. I'm not in the nonprofit space, so I'm sure there are other ways. Like you can go out and hire somebody that has a Rolodex of people and all that kind of stuff. But I would offer an answer that's much more in my wheelhouse of expertise, and that would be LinkedIn advertising. So when you do LinkedIn advertising, you should be able to target by company names or even by position, title, those types of things. So you can actually go, to my knowledge, to the company that you're trying to reach, and you can look at their tax filings, or you can look at their business documents that are listed online, and you can find their list of donors and people that have donated to them. And what I would be doing with that information is I would be going onto LinkedIn and I would be searching for companies in my targeting parameters that have donated to other similar nonprofits. And I would actually serve up ads to those companies with my messaging, trying to convince somebody. It doesn't have to necessarily be members of the C-suite or people that are controlling the purse strings. It could be everybody that works at a company that has donated, right? Because you want to influence the sphere of people beyond just the decision makers. But yeah, I would be putting messaging in front of every single person that works at a company that has donated to a cause similar to mine. From an efficiency standpoint, you may not like the CPMs that LinkedIn has to offer, but it's a very unique platform in the sense that some of the ways you can target are very different than other platforms. You try to go to Facebook, you're not going to be able to find and latch on to the appropriate audience members that you think you are, because not a lot of people use their business email addresses when they're signing up for Facebook and stuff. It's a whole mess, right? But LinkedIn, it's a very attractive avenue for me, I would think. Next, we have a question from @Ramona Picour. How do you start small and gradually scale your media team? What's first, essential, and then next? Etc. Seeing as I'm not exactly a media specialist, although I've been around media my whole career, it's going to be hard for me to really answer that question the way you're probably looking for. But I do have some insight, and it maps back to the way I would probably be looking to scale any team, right? So first and foremost, you want to start by bringing on core members of the team that are insanely smart and insanely talented, right? Your next generation of people outside of yourself. Call them your lieutenants or whatever you want to call them. If you don't like military analogy, call them your whatever. I don't know what you call them if you don't use military terminology. But the people that are surrounding you specifically have to be smarter than you. You don't get away with building amazing businesses by hiring inferior talent, right? You want to go out and hire people that are you're equal, if not greater. Now, there's still a reason why you're the CEO. You're taking on all the risks, so they aren't, and that's why they need a job. But I would be looking to hire immensely talented people, possibly people that are better at this than I am, right? I think the old saying is what? A's hire A's and B's hire C's, something like that, right? So hire some A's first and foremost. Second, and not to be outlooked or outranked, if you're looking at a specialty thing like media, you have to make sure that you understand what certifications you need, right? You need to understand that those certifications are going to help you unlock new business and help customers, especially when you're spending tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or millions of their dollars. They want to entrust you with their money knowing that you're fully certified across the board. So make sure that the people that you're hiring, that second, third generation of people that are going to be working on your team, that you have a plan of attack and a process for getting them certified. Lastly, and this is not for the faint of heart, I guess you could say, because it involves dealing with your peers or with other high-ranking members of your organization that don't touch media. It deals with business development and your sales funnel, right? So making sure that other people in your organization understand how selling media impacts their bottom line, and if they're out on the beat selling, why they should be thinking about you in their pursuits, right? Because as you're bringing in more dollars for the media team, that helps bring in revenue, which helps scale, which is what you're looking for in the first place, right? It's hard to scale a team of any kind, especially a media team, if you don't have dollars coming in and dollars in the bank. So try to make sure however you make money, whoever's out selling is on your team. So the next one comes from Ty Coralden. I think I'm pronouncing that, but Ty or Tico, I'm sorry if I'm not. Why do SMB and large companies not believe in content marketing? There's a number of different reasons why I think that could be the case, and I'm not going to stand for all of them, but my guess is either corporate politics. Maybe there's somebody in the organization that built their brands through television or built their brands through, I don't know, hardcore SEO or email marketing back in the day, and that's how they got big. And there's some romantic belief that's where they need to keep stuffing all their money, but they're not paying attention to the diminishing returns that they're getting now that they're not producing enough content, or it's just sheer laziness. And I would say that with the deepest empathy, because, while I don't want to necessarily chalk anything up to people being lazy, look, it's hard business. Content marketing, making a lot of content to feed the beast is not easy. I'm looking at a couple guys right now, our creators at the Sasha Group. It's a never-ending task making all this content, right? It just keeps coming and coming. And on top of that, you've got to know all the nuances of all the algorithms and how they work and, which algorithm is favoring what type of content. So not only do you have to produce an insane amount of content just to be able to arbitrage and get all the free attention, but you have to go to school on a daily basis just so you can know what makes better content than yesterday. So while I started off by saying laziness, I'll temper the enthusiasm around the term laziness and just say that it's a daunting task to think about. So when a lot of people think about it, I think they get dejected and they just decide, I gotta find a different way. Maybe there's some other way that I can build my brand that isn't putting content on the internet. Got an answer to that one. It's impossible, but if, I'm not everyone, and I'm sure there's a lot of that thinking out there where people just they get dejected and they don't feel like they are good enough and they just give up. People keep waiting for Gary to drop what the cheat code is, right? They keep expecting all of a sudden, I'm probably going to date myself, but back when I was a kid playing video games, there was this cheat code for Super Contra. And once you got it, you got 100 lives. And then you could go and you didn't have to worry about dying all the time. And so it made it easy for people to beat the game, right? And then you can move on to other games. I think a lot of people, they can be told by Gary or me or whoever that they need to go and make content, and we can even tell you how to do it, but it's still so overwhelming that you just don't want to do it. You want to be told exactly how to ace the test with the easiest possible route to acing it versus doing the hard work that's necessary. It's no different than going on a diet or getting your exercise routine down, right? There's things that you're going to have to take time out of your day every day. It's not great. You're not going to love doing it every day, but you kind of have to do it every day. You want to get in shape for the beach, you got to go to the gym. You got to watch what you eat. You don't want to do it. You have to do it. There's no other way to do it. Next, we have something from Marcel Mihalik. Marcel, I hope I did your name right. What tools do you recommend for analyzing user behavior on a website or platform? Similar to my media questions, I'm not a website specialist, but I have talked to a lot of media people. I've talked to a lot of web development people. A couple of tools that you should be taking a look at. Google Analytics really helps you on the back end from a marketing perspective, just understanding where your sources of traffic are coming, that kind of stuff. And then Hotjar, right? Understanding what people are doing while they're on site through the usage of heat maps and recorded sessions and stuff like that can be very helpful when it comes to laying out the user experience, if you will. So those are two. Not an expert, but I think those two, if you're using them, you'll be doing more than most companies. Follow-up question from Marcel. What tools do you recommend for scheduling posts and stories on social networks? And the official, I don't know if this is official from all of VaynerX, but I'll tell you officially from my perspective working within VaynerX is that we don't. It's either go completely native or use a hybrid approach. I wouldn't necessarily buy a tool that claims that they're gonna offer you the ability to save so much time. Look, being great at social media isn't about saving time, right? Like it's hard to save time and be great at social media. So I would throw that out the window a little bit. And the main reason is there aren't really a lot of schedulers out there, content schedulers, that encompass all of the platforms that you need to be relevant on. And most of them, I would say 99% don't account for TikTok. So automatically right off the bat, you're gonna have to be posting content on TikTok and then you have a scheduler for your other stuff. But I would also think about it in reverse. I would think about it using it sparingly. There's only a couple platforms where time of week and time of day are actually relevant to think about when you're posting your content. The other reason is we really like to be able to go in and community manage once we've put something out onto the internet. And if you're just batch uploading 50 pieces of content for the month into a scheduler and then they all go out, right? Do you also put timers on your phone so it lets you know when something's gone out and on what platform so you can go there and actually do that community management? Chances are that's not what you do. So you really need to think about community management as a complementary piece to your content scheduling in the first place. If you're not, you're leaving massive opportunities on the table. If you still want advice on scheduling tools, I'm not going to give you a name brand tool because this is how little time we spend on it. But I would say from a platform perspective, LinkedIn and Instagram are probably the two platforms where you might be able to schedule content. And I say that because the user behavior is very similar, right? Instagram, very high traffic. Mid-mornings, we're at 9 a.m. Eastern time till 10:30. A lot of people look at Instagram when they're on their commute to work or maybe when they first start and they're like going in between a couple meetings. LinkedIn is much more of a, hey, I'm gonna take a break from work at my lunch hour kind of platform where people are trying to signify a significant shift in what they're doing. LinkedIn is dead on the weekends. You don't have to worry about it then. And then maybe, just maybe, if you do have a scheduler and you find the one out, I think it might be Sprinkler that has TikTok embedded into it, you might look at posting TikTok more at night than during the day. There's a lot of user behavior where people are death scrolling TikTok at 9 or 10 p.m. instead of focusing on their spouse or watching whatever they're watching on their TV. So that I would say that TikTok's competing with Netflix or any of the other streaming services. So maybe set a timer and post stuff to TikTok regularly. But with any of those things, like I mentioned before, you miss out on your ability to go in and actually fuel the fire that's happening when you post content. When people are talking, you should be immediately going in and liking their comments or re-commenting on top of their comments and stuff. Not waiting 24 hours to do it or waiting until 9 a.m. the next day. So keep that in mind. I know it's tempting to want to find a silver bullet. Oh, hey, I got this thing for $1,300 a month and it's going to let me post 50 pieces of content everywhere and my life is going to be... No, your life is not going to be easier because your social media is not going to be as good. Last but not least, I would say that if saving time is at the root of this question, nothing saves you time like becoming expert at something. And so the more you spend time actually posting natively to the platforms and you come up with your system of how it goes from your phone to your editing software to back to your phone and back on the internet, like the more you go through that process of taking this and putting it here and putting it back here, like the more you'll find out what your hacks are to do it. People are trying to jump to the conclusion of, hey, let me pull all these things from all these different places and put them out on the internet so that I can take 3 weeks off. If you take 3 weeks off, you're going to get stale. You're not going to know what's happening on platforms. You're not going to have all those community management opportunities. Look to save time in making your process more efficient, not the process of batching out your content for 3 months so you don't have to worry about it, right? Social media is a daily thing. You have to worry about it every day. That does it for another episode of the Building While Flying podcast. I've been your host, Joe. And these questions have been phenomenal. Keep them coming on all of our social platforms. We love getting them, and I'll try to answer them in real time when I can from here and there. But at the very least, you'll get more of these mailbags.
Thanks for joining us for Building While Flying today. I hope you learned as much as we did. We'll meet you right back here next time for another flight.